Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Women for Humanity. Today, my guest is Helene Tremblay from Canada. More than 25 years ago, Helene, who is an author, photographer, researcher, and speaker, gave herself the mission of presenting humanity to humanity so that everyone on Earth would know with whom they shared the planet and find inspiration in each other. To achieve this, she has gathered in the last 30 years a unique content of humanity's intimate daily life through field research in more than 140 families in 111 countries. From sunrise to sunset, hour by hour, she shares the small events that shape daily lives of families all around the world. Today, she presents her work through her organization, Let's Meet on Earth. Welcome, Helene.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for being here, sharing your amazing and unique experience, life experience with us. I never heard anybody but you who has done what you do, but you are probably the only one in the world. It's amazing. We can learn so much. And I have to be honest, when you read the stories on the website, you get so emotional about how people live and what they go through, and they're still happy and positive, and it's so beautiful. So, but before we go into your talking about your organization, let's talk about you as a young girl. You grew up in Canada, but how were you, and did you already have dreams of global adventures as a young girl?
No, sometimes where we end up in life is sometimes very surprising. I was born in the northwest of the province of Quebec, which is a region that's called Abitibi. It's a bit like the end of the world, and it was the forest. After that, there was just the north, and I was raised in lumberjack camps and in boarding schools. From the time I was 6 years old, I was in boarding school because there was no school in the forest where my parents worked, and my mother worked, so she could send us to school. So I have found all over the world. You know what parents are capable to do to assure a good education and change for their children. So that's what they did. They put us in boarding school. We were 5 of us. And so I was completely ignorant. And I think the only thing I was dreaming about was freedom. And I am a free person. I was born that way. I'm a free person. I'm a free spirit. And so I was stuck in the boarding school. And I think the only thing I was dreaming of was about freedom. And then when I got out of there and I saw that there was things happening in this world, you know, Piaf was singing, you know, and I said, God, I came out of there and it was like a big shock. I said, what was happening in this world while I was in the bush, you know? Yeah. It was like the big discovery, and that question is the root of everything that I have done. What was happening in this world while I was in the bush? So I think it's a root. That question is a root. I love questions, you know. I think I prefer questions than answers, because it is the questions that send us to a quest. It is the questions that push us to find the answers. You know, once we have the answers, we need another question, you know, we need to learn more. And so that question was was the root. And it brought me to the global after and then it was when I was in Paris, when I started this project. Yeah. When I had the idea of this project, yeah. I was in Paris. Yeah.
And how did you, sorry, no?
No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted my next question would be what led you up to starting it, and what actually made you want to create a project like that?
well, okay. So at 19, I get out of the bush and boarding schools and all that at 15. At 19, I'm already in Europe. Okay, I lived a year in Germany and in France and Turkey, and I was traveling. You know, it was a time where of the backpack. You know, everybody was leaving, so I thought, oh, that's a good idea. Let's go. Except that I'm not backpack at all. I'm not a backpack person. I have lived all over the world. No. I'm more out of Africa style, you know.
I like that.
If I could have my boxes with my hats and the porters, I would love it. When I saw Out of Africa, I said, yes.
Oh, yes. Me too. I had my heart beating also. Yeah, I liked it so much. The clothes, whatever. Okay.
And so I came back to Canada, and then I went back to France and Paris. But by that time, I had started to work in advertising. Mm-hmm. And I started in film editing, and then a script, and then TV producer in an advertising agency. So when I went to Paris, I got a job as a TV producer. And then, but in Paris, compared to Montreal, they were snob about the salaries were incredible. Mm. There was not very much. Here, you know, the king of the potato chips could make a commercial on TV, but not in France. It was very costly. So it was big clients, big money. And then my anguish is, you know, why am I here? That's my big anguish. Why am I here? Where am I going? So at one point I was asking myself, how come we say we are the greatest communicators in the world, and maybe 80% of the people of this planet come to life and they die, and they don't know what has happened to them. They don't know where they are in the universe. They don't know where they are on this planet, with whom they share the planet. And yet the adventure is over. Mm-hmm. Just that idea was, that's impossible. We cannot arrive on Earth and have such an adventure without knowing where we are. So for me, that was the top of communication, was to bring the information about that to everyone on Earth. And that question, I mean, I would try to imagine myself, you know, anywhere in the world. I could not. I was ignorant. I could not bring, you know, just go with my head and be everywhere. And so that's how it started. So I said, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to present humanity to humanity. And I left everything.
Amazing. Yeah. Where did you start? Yeah. Which country was the first country you started in? I
started with Bolivia. Okay. I started with South America because South America is was the cheapest country to do financially. Okay. You know, you can do it all by bus. I did it all by bus, and also as I was working in advertising, and I had an apartment in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, and when we did the shooting, we were in big hotels, and it was the years of great spending. So I said, okay, if I'm going to start, I have to break. I have to cut. You know,
have a
my life.
Call. Yeah.
I have to break it and go somewhere where it's completely different, and forget about the past and start the new. And so I started with Bolivia. Mm-hmm. That was my first, and my first hotel cost, I think, was like $7 or $8, $9, something like that. And it was a place with full of whores and people coming out of prison, and they did not work there, but they lived there, you know. So one day, you know, you're having breakfast, and then someone comes in the restaurant, and everybody says, "Hey, hello." Great. And so there's someone beside me said, "Oh, he just come out of jail." And then one day there was 4 escort girls, and it was their day off. We had spent an incredible day, and they had washed their hair and made themselves the nails and everything. It was like a woman's day with escort girls. What a great hotel! What a great hotel! Oh. So that was the first hotel.
Wow.
So,
How did you, because now I read how you, well, we will come into that later, how you how you find the families, but in the beginning you didn't have a network in Bolivia, you didn't know anybody. How did you find the family there to
oh
stay
yeah,
there?
I had the first people that when I had that idea, the first place I went was the United Nations. I went to New York.
Okay.
I had met the director of communication of UNDP, UNFPA, UNICEF, and they all said the same thing. You know, we'll have a meeting. We have to have a meeting. You know, we have to have a meeting. So so I decided to borrow the money. I invested South America, and I said, when I'm going to come back from South America, if nobody believes in what I'm doing, I'll forget it and get a job back, right? And so I left, but the first people that helped me was Enterprise Service, which is based in Rome. It is a newspaper. It's an agency, news agency. It's a news agency. Many the philosophy behind IPS was there's a journalist in every country of the world. So Radio Canada does not have to pay $100,000 for a journalist to bring us the news, right? There is journalists over there. Go and get the news from, and so the IPS was that. It was journalists in every country. And it is the journalists at the very beginning, it is the journalists. So my first contact in Bolivia was a journalist who briefed me. And then I went to the statistical office in every country. You know, I'm not a tourist. I went to the statistical office to find what is the majority. You know, is the majority rural? Where do they live? Are they far away from from water, from the roads, from schools? So I make the profile of the majority statistically on a paper. And then I go and I go for it and I look for it. But I know in which region I was going. And so in Bolivia, that's how it all started like that. And I remember that first country, you know, that there's a question that you asked me was the woman that I admired, you know?
Yeah.
And in Bolivia, well, we'll come back to that, but in Bolivia, there was one. So I was sent on the Altiplano. And there was a center, and there was a young girl a young woman that had just finished her medical school that was there. She had 10,000 people all spread up in the mountains and on the Altiplano to serve, you know. And I went with her, walking hours and hours, you know, to give birth to this. That I have met women like that all alone, you know, doing their thing in the world. Yeah. And I think it is the woman that I have admired the most, you know. I have admired some from reading them, doing what they've done and everything. And there's always more women coming and that I can admire. But in the daily life, all through everywhere in the world, there's so many women to admire. Yeah. And that young woman, she just gave me a push, because at one point I had an interpreter and we went on the Altiplano, and then he got late, he arrived late, we left late, and then the sun, and we get to a school, right? Because the school was there, but the people lived everywhere, you know, there was just the school. Yeah. So the children came from all over. We arrived there, and suddenly the school doors open and all the kids run away. And so there was no way I could find a family there, right? So the interpreter says, stay here. I'm going to go back and I'll be back, you know? He never came back. He left me in a hut. I was alone on this hut in the Altiplano. There was nobody else around for the night. I slept against the door and on dirt floor and everything. And then the next day I had to come back. But then it was, that's where I noticed I I never get lost. I never get lost. I could remember the mountains because, you know, it was only a pathway, and sometimes the pathway went left and right. So I had to figure out, you know, my road. And that was my first country. Wow. And it was like, I said to myself, is it going to be like that in every country? You know, is it going to be like that in every country? So that was the really beginning that was kind of measuring me, my courage and, you know, my determination of what I was doing. So I was tested from the beginning.
Yeah, but that's perhaps a good lesson to get it right away.
Yeah.
You're very courageous. I think that's amazing. So there you found eventually a family to stay with in Bolivia.
Yeah, I did. And then because then there's two engineers that came by at the doctor's place, and we talked about my problem, and they said, "Oh, we're going further." They were going further on the Altiplano and in the mountains, and they said, "We'll bring her along and we'll help her find a family."
Okay.
And then I found a family there, and and then when I went to school with the boy of the family, I got to the school, and there was only one. I have the picture of that. There was only one girl.
Wow.
In the entire school, one girl, and that's it. I could, you know, I look at that picture still, and I say, what is the story behind that girl?
Yeah.
What is the story behind that girl? Yeah. And then you want to learn to get to know the parents. You know.
Yeah.
Because beyond that girl, there's parents.
Yeah, of course.
That believe in education. Yeah. There's a father. Yeah. There's a father that believes in his daughters, you know, and or she's super stubborn, and there's nothing that will, you know, it's always, it was such an amazing. So it's a journey of amazement to be able to learn about humanity and discover humanity.
Yeah, and you will. I mean, I lived in Papua New Guinea for 4 years, so I know just a little bit about how it is to live in such a different country, but to live in 111 or 113 different countries, I cannot
30,
imagine.
30,
30.
Yeah.
So
113, yes.
Yeah, so you find the families. You stay with them for how long time?
I stay with them. I stay with them for 4 days. It doesn't seem very much. But when I arrive in a country, I already have a contact. Okay, so I'm not losing time because I try to stay three weeks in a country. Okay. Now it's more. Now I'm more. Now I don't care anymore. I could stay a month and a half if you need to. You know, I'm not. No more stress, but there was an agenda, you know, and so I limited to 3 weeks. So, and sometimes 2, like the Caribbean islands and whatever. Mm-hmm. So I have a contact. So I go to my contact. Sometimes I arrive at 10 o'clock in the morning, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I have a meeting, and to discuss what is the majority, who's gonna, in which part of the country I'm going to the statistical office, discussing all my choices, looking for my statistics, and then we go in that region. We say, okay, we go into that region, and then people say, okay, who knows anyone like in that region? And then I have a contact in that region, and that person will help me find someone and we knock on doors.
Okay. Yeah.
And I visit 4 or 5 families, and I choose one.
Okay.
And usually the people that come with me, when we find the family, they say yes. We all say yes, that's the one. You know, it's like clear. And then I stay 4 days. I tried 5 days, but nobody felt good about it. I did not feel good. I felt it was too much. Yeah. So I kept on 4 days. So one day I follow the men, one day I follow the woman, and one day I follow the children in their activities. So the first thing we do and then arriving and leaving 4 days. And the Bedouin, they say that hospitality is 3 days. Yeah. That after 3 days, I guess it's like cheese. It starts to smell bad. Yeah. So and they are right. So hospitality is really 3 days. So I like to say to people that want to go and meet humanity, relax, because humanity does not want you more than 3 days at a time. So don't worry about it, you know.
But you can do a lot in 3 days. You can do a lot in 3 days.
Oh, you can do it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They forget. They think I've always been there.
Yeah.
It's like maybe life has given me the possibility to be that way, but often after 3 days they say, "Len, it's like you've always been here."
Yeah.
So I follow them and like this, and then I go. But the thing is, a family. If I'm going to a place where there's drought and war or anything going on in this, violence or conflict of generation, for example, they would say, okay, in our country, look for a conflict of generation. Then I will look in a family where there's a teenager.
Yeah. Okay.
But the people cannot explain what's happening. They know their problem, but they won't make a big thesis about why in the country there is that problem in the country, and that is the problem that I have, because there's they don't know. So for me to understand the family, it's all the people around that I have to explain the family. The family for me, she just lives. I let them live.
Okay.
And then I know what I'm looking for, and then I keep my eyes open for that, and it usually comes in a conversation. And when we're in the kitchen peeling potatoes together, a woman says everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best place to talk. So what do you do, Helen, if you don't understand them, if you don't speak the same language? How do you communicate?
Interpreters. I need interpreters.
Okay.
So that is also not easy because so I need a woman interpreter. I have said no more men interpreter. I remember in Uganda, the interpreter did not want to come in the kitchen because he said men don't go in the kitchen.
No.
I said yeah, but there's many things that are said in the kitchen. So so men they're not comfortable in the house, And I need an interpreter woman because sometimes and when I have a great interpreter, often the woman in the family, they say things to the interpreter that they would never say to anybody else. So it's a very important. Then you have the problem with the interpreter, like if you're in Africa and you have an interpreter of 19 years old, that and there's so much taboo that you cannot ask people that are older than you. It's taboo to ask a woman. So we have to break the taboos. I have to find the way to break the taboos. But often they don't sleep in the same house as I do. I let them go and sleep somewhere else in the village somewhere, or we find a family for them.
Yeah.
So we have a break, because one guest is a lot, two guests is a lot too, And then I spend some time alone with them, and then things happen. So there is a conversation that needs no language. I have young women that have told me all their life without telling me a word. And when I leave, it is the most difficult moment to leave, because when I am with a 15-year-old that is promised to get married to someone, and she doesn't, and she sees me free.
Right.
And when I leave free.
Right.
And I let her there. When we look at each other, it's like ripping apart, So these conversations. Then there's always the young people that go to school. And there's always this little bright cousin that learns English, that learns language easily, that absolutely wants to practice English. So that little cousin comes along, and then the parents tell me all kinds of things they would never tell me with the interpreter, how they fell in love, and then everybody laughs, and everybody's laughing because it's in the family, and then they just say it out. So it's
all these,
fantastic moment.
and it's fantastic because they are not prepared for you to come. You just jump in the door in one day, and then you stay for 3 or 4 days, and so they have to adapt very quickly to a different person, different culture, different color, perhaps. It's amazing that so many people let you in without even knowing about you before.
And actually, when I go and we ask, we tell them what I do, and then we ask them if they would agree, and that I'll have to take pictures, and then I would follow them like this, and the way that I function, and then I say, then if they say yes, then I say, okay, what is your next 3 days? What have you planned? You know. And then they tell me, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and there's things happening in school tomorrow. That would be interesting if you go to school tomorrow. Say, okay, tomorrow I will follow the kids. Yeah. And then, and when I'm following the kids, they forget about me. Suddenly she goes to the river to wash her clothes. So then when I come back from school, I find her at the, you know. So the natural comes when they think I'm not focusing on them, but only on one. And so that's why suddenly I'm part of the family. Like in Namibia, the mother was dying of AIDS. Okay, I get there, and she's in a hut. She's wrapped in a army blanket, you know, the gray blankets, the army gray, heavy, you know. She hasn't been washed. It stinks. So they tell me she's dying. She's not eating anymore. It stinks. And, you know, they make their local beer. They're sitting having beer, laughing outside the hut. I get there and I said, no. I got them to take everything out of the hut. I gave her my clothes to wash her. We washed her. I gave her some of my clothes that was very light to the skin, you know. And then I got them to go and get me potatoes and avocados, anything that I could peel. And then I started feeding her just a little bit with water, and then at one point they were yelling, "Helene, she wants to eat now," you know. And then I would go and feed her because she didn't want nobody else, you know. And at the end they said, "We forgot you were white."
Yeah.
It's like there was no more colors, you know. And that's, I thought that was very you know,
beautiful,
nearly a compliment, you know, on my capacity to just get in there and be with them, you know.
And you got to take photos also. They allowed you to take photos.
Or if they don't allow, I don't go in.
No, okay, because because there are some cultures that doesn't allow people to take photos. They believe that the soul is taken away from them. So you don't go there. No, okay.
No.
Do you pay them something or give them a gift or something when you leave? Or
when I leave.
Okay.
Because at the beginning I would give it too early, and what they do is they go and spend it for me. They would go and get food for me, right? So I would give it at the end. But it's often the poorest people that refuse, you know. It's kind of a question of pride, you know, of no. And so sometimes I give it to the grandmother. I put it to the grandmother. The grandmother knows exactly what she will do with it, you know. And or I will say, okay, I will buy the school uniform. I will do that and then they accept it. And often I would give it some to the men and some to the women.